I'm Lavanya Mahate. Over the past 2 decades, I've built multiple businesses, opened over a dozen restaurants, recognized as the Business Person of the Year. I've become a James Beard Award semi-finalist, founded a nonprofit that helps refugee and immigrant women build new careers through culinary training, and had the privilege of mentoring many entrepreneurs and leaders. What if success isn't supposed to feel this way? Have you ever looked around at the life you've built and quietly wondered, why doesn't this feel the way I thought it would? It's not because your life is failing. In many ways, it's exactly the life you worked for. You have the career, the business, the family, the responsibilities. People respect you. People depend on you. And from the outside, you've made it. So why is there still a part of you that feels restless? Like there's a version of you that somehow got left behind while you were busy building the life that everyone else admires. If you've ever had that feeling even once, I want you to know something. You're not behind, you're not lost, and you're certainly not alone. Because I believe one of the greatest tragedies isn't failing. It's succeeding at a life that no longer feels like your own. And that's what this conversation is about. Because I don't think the problem is that you've done less. I think we've misunderstood what success was supposed to give us. I can still picture the night everything changed for me. It was well after closing. I was standing alone in one of my restaurants, and the dining room was empty. The chairs were upside down on the tables, and the kitchen had gone quiet. That particular kind of quiet, the kind that only comes after a day of constant movement. It had been one of our best years. The restaurants were growing, the business was thriving, there were awards, there was recognition, there was momentum. If you looked at my life on paper, it looked like success. But standing there in that empty restaurant, I remember leaning against the counter and asking myself a question I had never allowed myself to ask before. Is this everything I worked for? Why doesn't it feel like it's enough? Why does it feel like I'm missing something? And it's not because I wanted more, but because somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling like myself. And that question stayed with me. And looking back now, I realize it wasn't the beginning of my success story. It was the beginning of coming home to myself. For years, I believed success meant becoming more, doing more, achieving more, giving more, holding more, until I realized I had become incredibly successful at building a life that everyone admired except the person living it. And that realization changed everything for me. Today, I'm an advocate for something I call the power of ownership. Not ownership of a company, but ownership of yourself, your thoughts, your choices, your time, your voice. Because I've learned something I wish someone had told me years ago. Success should expand who you are, not require you to abandon yourself. Maybe your story looks different. Now, maybe your version isn't 12 restaurants. Maybe it's a corporate career. Maybe you're raising children. Maybe you're caring for aging parents. Maybe you're building a business. Maybe you're simply the person everyone relies on. You're the dependable one, you're the capable one, the one who always says, I've got this, I've got it. You're the one solving problems and holding everyone together. And somewhere, almost without noticing, you stopped showing up for yourself. Not dramatically, but quietly, gradually, one responsibility at a time. And if that feels familiar, I think I know why. I call it borrowed success. Borrowed success isn't fake success. In fact, it often looks incredibly impressive. It's becoming who everyone celebrates before asking yourself whether it's who you wanted to become. It's saying yes because disappointing people feels unbearable. It's staying in roles you've outgrown because everyone tells you how good you are at them. It's building a business everyone envies while quietly losing yourself inside it. It's collecting achievements while becoming increasingly disconnected from the person collecting them. And the hardest part, the more borrowed success you accumulate, the louder the applause becomes, and the harder it is to hear your own voice. Borrowed success isn't failure, it's simply expensive because eventually it costs you yourself. I've spent years thinking about this, watching it in myself, watching it in other entrepreneurs, leaders, parents, high achieving women. And I think it happens for three reasons. The first, we confuse achievement with fulfillment. We are taught to ask, what's the next milestone? Rarely, what actually matters to me? So we keep climbing ladders without ever asking whether it's leaning against the life we actually wanted. Second, we become so busy managing life that we stop experiencing it. Have you ever reached the end of the day and realized you can't actually remember being present for any of it? You answered all your emails, you solved problems, you checked all the boxes, but you weren't really there. You were surviving your schedule, not living your life. And third, we slowly drift into autopilot. And it doesn't happen overnight. Nobody wakes up and decides to disappear from their own life. But it happens through hundreds of tiny moments, tiny compromises, tiny yeses, tiny decisions to postpone ourselves until later. Until one day we look around and wonder where we went. A few years ago, I found myself spending more and more time in India. I visit temples, I'd spend time with meditation teachers, go on retreats, and just slow down. At the time, I don't think I could have told you exactly why I kept going back. But looking back now, I think I was searching for something I couldn't quite name. Or maybe I was searching for myself. Not the entrepreneur, not the mother, not the leader, not the person everyone expected me to be. Just me. For the first time in a long time, I got quiet enough to hear my own voice again. For the first time in years, the voice that had been buried beneath decades of achievement. It didn't tell me to build something bigger. It didn't tell me to become someone else. It simply reminded me of something I had forgotten, who I was, before I started measuring my worth by what I could accomplish. And that realization transformed every part of my life. And it didn't happen overnight. Real transformation rarely works that way. But little by little, I stopped asking, how can I be more successful? And started asking, does this allow me to become more of myself? That question changed how I led my businesses, how I parented, how I rested, how I made decisions, how I defined success for myself. So I'd like to leave you with one small experiment. It's not another productivity hack, just one question. Sometime this week, pause just for a moment and notice something you're doing simply because you've always done it. Maybe it's saying yes. Maybe it's apologizing when you haven't done anything wrong. Maybe it's checking your email before you've even checked in with yourself. Then ask yourself, am I choosing this or am I simply repeating it? And you don't have to change anything, you just get to notice, because awareness is where ownership begins. And let me ask you another question. Have you ever achieved something you thought would make you happy, only to discover it still wasn't enough? Leave a comment below and let us know. And if this conversation resonated with you, I hope you'll subscribe and join. Next week, we're going to explore something I wish I had understood years earlier. Competence is not the same as self-trust. If you ever second-guessed yourself, if you already knew the answer but asked other people anyways, this is exactly what we'll be talking about. Competence is not the same as self-trust. I'll see you then.